So, good evening, everybody. We are here with 60 Hours Shakespeare, and this is the cast of Queen Margaret. Let's give us all a big round of applause, first of all. Thank you for being here with me. So, I consider myself not an experienced Shakespearean, but I know something about him already. And it's Queen Margaret. Which play is it? I don't know this title. So my first question, for sure, for who feels brave enough to answer, is the hell is Queen Margaret? What are we talking about?
Oh, I can say a little bit just because I played her recently in a play in Northampton, and I mean, she's basically, I describe her as a sort of medieval Maggie Thatcher. She thinks everybody's done it badly to her, but actually she's given back as good as she's got. And at the time I'm playing it, I'm a much older person than Annie is going to be when she comes. So it'd be nice to do the backstory because I haven't done that bit. So nice
yes, but I'm interested to understand how the play is constructed, because there isn't a play whose title is Queen Margaret. Correct me if I'm wrong. So what is this? Is it like an overview of all the plays in which Queen Margaret appears, or is it just her take on the story? I'm very curious to understand what we're dealing with. And
almost all the ones that she's in.
Okay.
But not Richard III. So it's just the three Henry.
Three of the four.
Okay, that's very, very interesting. And in your opinion, since you are doing this performance, why the Shakespeare theatrical universe? I think that's the name of this kind of project, right? Yes, I believe so. I hope I'm correct. Why has he decided to portray this character? I mean, and by he, I mean the artistic director, Gavin Lee, who never appears in these interviews, so leaves us guessing.
Yeah, I think it's like a chance to explore her a bit more fully, sort of linking all those things together. It's definitely not something that's been done before, because obviously she really leaps in age throughout the different plays that she appears in, and, you know, like suddenly gets a kid at one point. So yeah, I think it's just a chance to sort of do a real character study.
Okay, that's really interesting. So we will basically see all the world of Queen Margaret like around her, and we will get a privileged view of her personality and her role in these plays in which she appears, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a very cool one. I cannot wait. Now, this question is for everybody, so you will just go one after the other. I'm curious to know, which character are you playing, and one thing you are excited about playing this character. So one thing you like about your character.
So I'm playing Henry VI. One thing I like about him, I mean, at least to start with, is for a king, I really don't think he knows what he's doing.
Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting thing to portray, actually. Yeah.
I'm going to play Humphrey, and I think I like it from the point of view, according to what I've read so far, that Shakespeare was very sympathetic towards him. Whereas in real life, he was a bit of a pain in the ass from all accounts. Oops, should I say that?
You can say whatever you want here. We're not.
So yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how he is portrayed compared to what he is in history.
That's very cool.
I played the Earl of Salisbury. It's not a character I'm very au fait with, so I'm looking forward to picking up on his storyline and the rest of it. But I do live about 20 miles from Salisbury, so that's probably why I've been selected, because I'm obviously the Earl of Salisbury in terms of the cast
For sure.
of 60 Hours Shakespeare.
You surely look like one. Okay. Annie, who are you playing?
I'm playing Queen Margaret. Yeah, I guess I really like that it's yeah. I like that it's something really new. I don't know if anyone's done this kind of thing before, so I think that's going to be really interesting to see how that sort of works out when the script's all sort of woven together.
Absolutely. Yeah. Can't wait. And
So I'm playing the Earl of Warwick, Warwick the Kingmaker. He was quite a cool dude in a way because he sort of flopped around and supported everyone, but he also was a descendant of John of Gaunt, so he's got almost as much royal blood as some of the claimants to the throne. So he's kind of a big deal, and he knows he is, or at least he thinks he is. So I'm kind of keen to get under the skin of him and see why he thinks he can get away with everything that he tries to get away with.
yeah, that's super interesting. And last but not least, my friend Maggie. Maggie. Oh, I think she's frozen. Oh, all right. We will wait for Maggie to come
There.
back.
Am I back?
Ah, you're back, Maggie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
I'm
great.
playing Cardinal Beaufort, and I have not seen the whole script yet because he appears in many other scenes other than with Margaret. But one of the things that's interesting is just I'm not saying I like this about him, but he's just a typical conniving religious figure. They play quite, frequent roles in Shakespeare. It's like there's no secret that everybody knows that these people are often using their religious backing for political reasons. But he does come to a point later when he has some conscience about it. I don't think that will be obvious it's not going to happen in the play, but I know that about his character. So I like thinking that arc happens.
Yeah, that is very, very good. So I have a question for Sue and Maggie specifically in this case, because I think that among the people who are here, you are the only ones playing untravesti, no? You're playing male characters, although you are definitely beautiful women. So what's interesting of this kind of challenge? I mean, I know for sure you've done it before in several other productions, but what is the challenge and what do you feel is most complicated to, get inside the skin of a man, actually, a male character?
I think what I try and do is just put a little bit of truth from me into the characters I do. So hopefully that crosses whatever gender you play. And after all, we've all got the same emotions within us. It's just some emotions are stronger in men than women, stereotypically. So it'd be interesting to explore that. What are the motivations behind the character? But I don't go into a role thinking, oh right, this is definitely a male. I'll play it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I try and make it sort of gender neutral unless we get to a part in the rehearsals that we think no, it's got to go that little bit more the other way. So then I'll adjust it accordingly. But I don't actually consciously go in thinking, right, I'm playing a male, right, I'm going to start walking as though I'm John Wayne. I just don't do that way. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it comes out this time.
Totally agree. And you, Maggie?
It's probably similar. I'm actually playing a male now, and the director did want there's another woman doing the same thing, and we actually are wearing makeup beards. That was her choice. And
I want to see a picture of that.
I'll send you something.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I have to admit something. We don't fool anybody. I've tried to kind of keep my voice lower. I have kind of a bit of a lower voice anyway, I think, for a woman. But I think I I've actually gone out a few times and just watched men walking around, but trying to look at people like not the average American, or I'm in San Diego, it's very much a beach town, and people are in their shorts and their flip flops and they're not looking very regal, I'll say, so I'm a noble, so I'm trying to access that, a kind of a sense of toughness, I guess, but and something that's more at peace in terms of that in the world, like not so much fear, just latent kind of fear that women might have. But otherwise, it's kind of the universal sense of things, I think, that I'm usually trying to access.
Yeah, I totally agree. Absolutely. Now, I have another question, which might be a bit weird, so bear with me and try to understand what I mean. Yesterday, in the other cast interview, I asked why it is still relevant to perform Shakespeare nowadays, but I would like to expand on this topic a bit more tonight. And why is it relevant to perform Shakespeare's historical plays nowadays? Because I think that although we know that Shakespeare portrays universal values and universal passions, here he's talking about real people and real historical facts, which are not always positive, of course. So, first of all, do you believe that Shakespeare is expressing some kind of political point of view or judgment on the history of Great Britain? And do you believe that it is useful to see those plays portrayed nowadays? Can they teach us something on our contemporary situation?
Well, I think it'd be fair to say that when Shakespeare wrote them, he wrote them with a political bent because he wrote them for the monarch at the time. And that's a gross generalization, I appreciate. So all we're really seeing in a Shakespeare history is a version of history from one particular angle, maybe, although equally history is written by the victors anyway. So yeah, to some degree, what we're seeing is a window on the world from a certain angle anyway in his histories. As in terms of why do we do it today? Well, I think you've already touched on that. It's universal issues. If we don't listen to history, we are doomed to make the same mistakes. Only the problem is we seem, as again, generically, we seem as a global society to, yes, we do follow history and we do still make the same mistakes. So I think the stories from 400 years ago are still happening today. And that's why I think they're still relevant. And much anything else, they're fun.
Absolutely, yeah. Anyone has something to add on this?
Yeah, I mean, just on the point of things still happening today, I mean, just this weekend with the events in Russia, I was watching it thinking, which Shakespearean play is this? And I thought Prigozhin was giving off some very strong Jack Cage rebel vibes at one moment. And, it's an ongoing cycle. Although we build up structures of civilization and expectations and norms and so on, at the end of the day, we're all a bunch of shaven primates. So like we have the same motivations as the people did then, and that doesn't ever change. And as long as there are people in power, we'll see some of these stories play out.
If I ever felt glamorous, now I feel like a shaven primate. Thank you for this gift. Thank you so much. Okay, this question is for Luke and Annie because I see they are getting a little quiet. So, which ones would, in your opinion, be the 2/3 main themes of these production of these texts? Could be anything: love, revenge, war, whatever. What do you feel is important to showcase when producing and staging this play?
I think, sorry, after you, Annie.
Oh, I was going to say, I think, especially in relation to the last question, I suppose, the way in which power corrupts, which we're definitely seeing today in our government, as well as who has the right to power, which is quite interesting in these, who and for what reason has the right to sort of put the boot on other people. and sort of, yeah, to what extent should we allow that to sort of be taken by those in power? So yeah, I think those are sort of my main themes that I'm seeing at the moment.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was gonna say how the responsibility those with power have and how they choose to use it or choose not to use it. Some characters are really searching for power and doing anything they can to get it. Some characters have it thrust upon them and don't really want it or know what to do with it. And I think that anyone with power has some responsibility with how they use it, whether they wanted it or not, and whether how they hand over that power or protect it or don't protect it is as important as what they do with it.
Okay, that's very interesting. Wow. Okay, let's get a bit more into the production. A little bird told me that it's going to be a production in historical costumes, so quite a traditional staging. How do you feel that the aesthetics of a production affect your performance when creating a character? Do you feel like wearing a different kind of costume affects the way you act somehow? Or, I mean, how do you feel about that?
For me, I think it does, but you also have to have restraint. I think it's really useful to try and approach any character like you would when you're wearing your jeans and your t-shirt, because they're a real person, but also people wearing particularly historical costumes that would affect the way that you move just on a very physical level, but also the costume is a sign of your status, and in particular time periods, people with certain status would move in a certain way to demonstrate that. So you can't ignore it, but I think it's important to find the real human being in that beforehand.
I think especially if you're a woman, historical costume generally ends up with restrictions. I remember doing a play where the costume designer was like, don't kneel down because you won't be able to get up. And I forgot and I knelt down and then I had to do the rest of the play on the floor. So yeah, I think definitely a lot of things to consider when you're getting historical dress.
That's very interesting. Yes. So, I think that you are all maybe I think that you are all 60-hour Shakespeare veterans. Have you already done at least one show with 60-hour Shakespeare?
I've not. This will be
You are a newbie. Welcome.
Yes.
I'm a 60-hour virgin.
60-hour virgin. Get ready for a very, very intense first time. Okay, then this question is for you as the virgin of the group and for a seasoned veteran, whoever wants to pick it. What is more challenging about 60-hour Shakespeare and how, I mean, it works? It's just 60 hours to rehearse and then go on stage of a Shakespeare play. So it's pretty intense. So as a person who has never done it, what do you fear the most or what are you excited about? And as someone who is already a veteran, what do you enjoy and what do you hate about the process? Let's begin with the virgin.
Me first. Then I guess the thing I'm most trepidatious about is turning up knowing my lines because I will have to learn them without you guys being around. So I won't have any timing of anybody else to get used to the pace of how we're doing it. I will have to learn them listening to my own voice on other people or for other people's lines. So that's probably my biggest, not fear, because I'm also quite excited by it, but it is probably the thing I'm thinking about most, to learn my lines before I turn up, because you've got 60 hours to block and get everything working. In terms of what I'm looking forward to most, although I am looking forward to that, is just being with you all and on Gavin's evenings, the open mic, so to speak. I've been so seriously impressed with everyone's ability, and I'm really looking forward to sharing a stage and the whole process with you all. It'll be really exciting.
Oh, it's gonna be absolutely wild. I can assure you that. But you're gonna love it. It's like a drugs, you know, you cannot just give up. You want more and more and more after just one dose.
For sure.
Okay, and one of my veterans, Maggie, you.
Ooh. Did you pick
Yes,
somebody?
you, Maggie. Yeah, you.
Oh, okay. Well, it's interesting for me because the production that I'm in now is the first time I've ever been in one that wasn't a showcase where we had a long process. And so I've got to contrast it, and it's actually made me even more respectful of what happens with 60 Hour, that we pull it together. Of course, we can't do things quite as in a complicated way. But I've seen, the advantage of having a longer time to play things out, but also that can wear you out. and there's no chance to get worn out with what the production is on 60 Hour, right? Because it just boom, boom, it goes so fast. And it's quite, it's a burden in a certain way to have to show up already knowing everything, or knowing all your parts, especially when there's a lot of interaction. It's much easier to do the monologues, of course, but there's also a lovely advantage to that, to have people actually know what all their lines are, pretty much right away. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I did it for the first time last year, and I have to say that they really did impress me with the lines. I mean, I was like a rabbit in headlamps because it was my first time last year. But wow, you really have to up your game to be up with everybody else. And I think that's one of the challenges. And also the fact you're doing it in such a short time, as Maggie said, you're just instantly out there. And so the adrenaline's going, and so there's an excitement and an energy to the performance, which maybe, as Maggie again said, if you're doing weeks and weeks and weeks of rehearsals, sometimes that energy can be lost a little. So yeah, these guys are good.
But you are as well. You are bloody brilliant. So can't wait to see what you're gonna do this year. I'm so
I've got to live up to that now, haven't I? Yes. Thanks.
So I think we have like a few more minutes. So I would like to jump to my favorite question. Unfortunately, Aunt, you have already answered it yesterday, but you can change your answer. You still have a chance to save yourself from your terrible answer. But I am dying to know a very serious and important thing. If you could marry a Shakespearean character, which one would it be? Sorry.
For me, then it would have to be Portia, because if I ever got in trouble, she could actually save my skin.
So Portia from Merchant, not Portia from Julius Caesar.
I'm sorry, yes, Portia from Merchant and
Portia
Venice.
from
Yeah.
Merchant. That's an interesting choice. Annie?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe the character I always want to play, Benvolio from Romeo and Juliet. This seems like a really good guy. Someone's everyone to stop
Absolutely.
fighting.
I do agree. It's a very underrated character, but extremely interesting. He's one of my favorites, so couldn't agree more.
Okay, so Ilaria, I have changed my mind. It's not going to be Lady Macbeth anymore.
You have changed that. I knew that.
But I've decided to find a
over
nice
it.
girl and settle down. So I'm going to go with Catherine from Taming of the Shrew.
Oh yeah, even better. You like to get in trouble, Aunt.
Well, she's already been tamed.
Well, we don't know. We will see if Aunt is able to tame her. Let us know how it goes, though. Okay, Luke.
Well, now Lady Macbeth's available, Anne. I think I'll. My life is so tame. I think that would be a nice injection of excitement.
That's That's great. Lady Macbeth always gives this kind of flavor of spice to a wedding, no?
Apparently, I've heard that. Yeah.
Apparently, yes. Okay, that's cool. Maggie?
Yeah, that's what my biggest issue with paying attention to the Shakespeare over these last few years is how few really virtuous characters there are. It's like, man, it's like a Robert Altman film. Yeah, who can you admire besides Sir Thomas More? And that doesn't really count. But to tell you the truth, my character now, Ross, I think he's got some nobility about him. I mean, there's a little bit of problem when he maybe he could have done more to save Macduff's wife. I don't know. You know, it's kind of mysterious whether he knew very much or not.
Interesting character.
Yeah, but he has a sense of nobility that runs through. And he has to have a lot of compassion because he's a person who brings news, and often it's not very good news. So, but he admires Macduff. There's something about him that's like, he seems relatively upstanding enough. You know, he might be a good mate.
That's cool.
Maybe Henry V. And so we with Catherine.
Yeah, he's hot.
To come around, but he's got some. He has some other edges to him from his past and even his present before he died.
I agree. And you, Sue?
I mean, this is a bit weird. I think I must be a masochist. I'm thinking Falstaff. I'm thinking. Yeah, right.
You win.
Yeah, and I mean, especially if I was a sort of Mistress Quickly character or something. But yeah, I mean, also it'd be quite easy to go after, shove him out the door and into the nearest pub. You can forget him for a couple of hours. Get on with what you want to do. So, and I know any serious philandering isn't really going to come to anything. So yeah, I think for a laugh, probably a lot of exasperation, but a lot of fun and a lot of chaos. Falstaff.
Let's give us all a big round of applause.